This is a sign that the West is quietly collapsing. More and more people are sleeping in cars, vans, and tents across wealthy nations once seen as untouchable. Not because they're unemployed, not because they're reckless, but because the price of simply existing has exploded. Single minimum wage workers are no longer renting apartments. They're parking behind supermarkets, hiding in industrial zones, and turning back seats into bedrooms. Buying a home has vanished for many. Renting is barely possible. Shelter is becoming optional instead of guaranteed. Full-time workers are being priced out of roofs. Rent now consumes 60 to 70% of paychecks. Food climbs, fuel climbs, utilities climb, but wages barely move. So people adapt the only way they can. In Los Angeles, entire streets glow with van windows at night. In Australia, families sleep near beaches because leases are unreachable. In the UK, van dwellers hide from council fines just to rest without being moved along. The promise used to be simple. Work hard and you'll own a home. But housing stopped being shelter and became an asset. Investors outbid residents, and ownership shifted from a life goal to a financial privilege. When people with jobs can't afford a place to sleep in the richest nations on earth, the problem isn't effort or discipline. It's this. What future does the West have when working no longer guarantees a home?
Got a letter in the mail. My rent is being increased. Look at my room. This is my room. I have a bed and a desk. This is the tiniest room I've ever lived in my life. There ain't nothing here. Dude, I used to own a home. My entire home, my like brick house, was $1,200 mortgage a month. I don't know, 8 years ago. I used to live across the street, and a 3-bedroom apartment was $700 a month. I don't even know what to do. I'm just upset that I got a letter in the mail that my rent's going up again for no reason. And this is my fucking bedroom. It's cute, though. It's cute. I make it cute, so.
There are forever renters, the ones that have always rented, haven't got a hope in hell now. I never thought at 76 years of age I'd be there with 6 other people under the same roof. I thought I'd have a little roof over my own head and enjoying what years I've got left.
Pensioner Bill Turner is on the brink of homelessness after he was forced out of his home when it was phased out of the National Affordable Rental Scheme in 2023.
I don't feel needed. I don't feel recognized. I don't feel adequate. At a time in my life where I should just be relaxing, I can't do that. Funny thing is, I applied for a granny flat. Now, I'm a granny. You think a granny flat would be associated to me, but no. It went to a fly-in, fly-out guy that lives in the place 2 weeks a month.
Leaving him feeling deserted and hopeless.
When I put my head down on that pillow at night, reality hits home. And I think, what the, why? Where's it going to take me? And who cares?
And he's not alone.
We guys don't have a voice. For those 200,000 Australians that are really doing it rough, and can't go out to work because they're age pensioners, that is the question to ministers, prime ministers, and premiers. What about us? What about us? We pensioners, people of my age.
He bankrupted the country in 14 months. The U.S. Treasury has now confirmed that the United States is insolvent. So in 14 months, he took a profitable country that was standing on its own 2 feet and made it so dependent on everybody else, but yet nobody's coming to his aid. So the $1 billion a day to fight a war that he wedged his fat ass in the middle of because of his buddies over in the blue country is costing the taxpayers $1 billion a day that we don't have. We couldn't afford health care for the people of this country, but yet we have $1 billion a day to go to a war that nobody wanted. We couldn't afford to give kids free lunch in schools, but yet we have $1 billion a day to fight a war that's not actually going to profit or benefit the United States in any way. And that's exactly what he's done. He has bankrupted 6 companies. He has bankrupted 3 casinos, and he has caused harm and chaos in every single venture that he's ever taken, and he always goes bankrupt and then leaves everybody else to pay his tab. And that's exactly what he's doing right now, because while we're all sitting here wondering how we're going to pay our rent, our electric, and our food all in the same month because we can't live off of our paychecks anymore because we don't make enough anymore, he's sitting there cashing checks that our asses have to cash. And I know that I could be bottom, but it doesn't mean that I want the whole world to be taking a piece of it.
Massachusetts voters may soon decide whether to bring back rent control, a policy the state hasn't seen since it was banned in 1994. But even before the ballot question is finalized, the debate is already heating up. Carolyn Chu with Homes for All Massachusetts says rising prices are pushing people out and believes rent control could help stabilize costs.
We know the rent is already way too high in every corner of our state, and we just want to make sure people are protected from these kind of rent increases.
But not everyone agrees. Real estate professionals like Anthony Lamacchia argue rent control could actually limit housing supply, driving more people out of Massachusetts in the long run.
It's not just not the best idea, it's a horrible idea. And it will hurt tenants in the end more than anyone.
And as the conversation continues, some in the industry say the possibility of rent control is already influencing pricing, with landlords raising rents now in anticipation of future limits.
One can't really blame them because they know once they get locked in at that amount, if this passes in November, they'll be stuck with that moving forward as the benchmark.
Others, however, argue that's exactly why protections are needed, saying without limits, prices will only continue to climb.
If landlords are choosing to not do repairs now or raise the rents astronomically right now, I think it speaks to why we so desperately need a policy like this.
With strong opinions on both sides, the issue is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched questions on the ballot.
This video will very likely get suppressed, so I'm going to ask you yet again to repost this to avoid the TikTok censors. The following quotes that I'm about to read for you are from court documents that detail the living conditions at the for-profit immigration detention center in Dilley, Texas. And as you are listening to these quotes, keep in mind that this is a center that exists for profit and is holding families, including young children and infants, in its care. Keep that in mind. A 2-year-old with an infected gum that Dilley staff did not treat for over 23 days, leading her to have a fever, infection, cry relentlessly, and be on a liquid diet the whole time. The children chew their nails, and many have regressed to wetting the bed again. They are deteriorating psychologically. A 10-year-old child with Hirschsprung's disease who lacked proper medical care and diet, resulting in no bowel movements for over a month. The workers laugh at the kid's pain. Staff laughed in a child's face as he ripped up their drawings. Staff threatened to separate a family when a toddler wouldn't stop crying from an untreated toothache. A 9-year-old girl was left with scratch marks all over her entire body due to allergies and no special diet provided. The soap that they have here hurts our skin and hair and make us break out in hives. It is making me and my daughter's hair fall out in big clumps. My son has had a scaly rash all over his body since week 1, and it has never gone away. They have thrown away the crayons for our security, and so the children would not write more letters about the conditions at Dilley. Families have consistently reported their children are hungry, exhausted, perpetually sick, and despondent from the conditions of confinement at Dilley. For any illness, the only advice is to drink more water. The water is undrinkable. Every day I am crying because there is no food for our son to eat. I am so sad all the time that there is not baby food here. The lights are kept on all night while the children try to sleep. Children with disabilities and chronic medical conditions continue to deteriorate from Dilley's harsh, restrictive environment, separation from their medical providers, and interruption of their medical care and healthcare plans.
How the fuck did that happen? Hell no, y'all peep this shit. Let me tell y'all how great America is right now. Make long story short, America is broke as hell, broke as fuck, broke as shit, to a motherfucking point. The Treasury have just announced this magnificent fucking bombshell stating that America is insolvent. Let me say this one more time to the people in the back time. They said, and I quote, America is insolvent. So with that being said, we are so damn in debt, so damn close to looking like bankruptcy is our middle motherfucking name. To a fucking point, bitch, we are insolvent. And then we are in the middle of a motherfucking war. Let's not forget, gas prices are rose the fuck up. Then they gave us these weak ass fucking gas. And on top of that shit, did y'all realize the grocery prices is rising the fuck up too? Oh, okay, that's cool. So with that being said, to all y'all motherfuckers that said, make America great again, we're the best country in the world. We got best Are we great yet? Are we great yet, or am I chipping out again? Are we great yet, or not? Am I chipping out again? Oh, I think I'm chipping out again, right? Insolvent. What the fuck? How the fuck did we get here? Woo! That's funny as hell.
What do you think the primary driver of homelessness is in this country? Now, I think if you'd ask most people, they'd probably say, well, those folks are just lazy and they don't want to work. Or they'd probably take the Dochi answer and say,
By a lot, you mean drugs? I wouldn't. Drugs? No, it's no.
But you'd probably be surprised to find out that the primary driver of homelessness in this country is the fact that the rent
it's too damn high.
You mix the fact that the rent is too high with the fact that the wages are too low, with the fact that there isn't enough low-income housing that exists in most places, and you have the perfect combination of things in which folks get squeezed out of the system. And I think it was a lot easier for folks to just push this away before and say, this is someone else's problem, before we recognize the reality that almost all of us are experiencing increasing rent prices and the impact that is having on our bottom line while our wages are stagnant. And this should be an issue for most Americans who are legitimately 2 paychecks away from not being able to pay their mortgage or their rent. And oftentimes we focus on the outcomes of homelessness as opposed to looking at the inputs. And the reality is we should all be advocating for affordable housing, because where there's affordable housing, people continue to have the opportunity to do what they need to do in life. And I can't imagine for a second the despair that one might feel when they have been officially pushed out and are deciding every single day whether or not they're going to eat, where they're going to lay their head, while simultaneously you have people saying, just stop being lazy. But maybe we should stop being lazy and start advocating for policies that focus in on affordable housing.
People talk about the housing crisis like it's just numbers, but it actually changed how people live inside their bodies. I have experienced instability firsthand, and what people don't talk enough about is how expensive housing forces you into survival mode, even when you're doing everything right. You stop making choices that are based on what's healthy and start choosing decisions that are based on what you can afford to survive. Since 1970s, the rent has gone up over 50%, adjusted for inflation, but the wages have not kept up. Even renting isn't a safe fallback anymore. This is why so many people feel stuck, why so many people stay in jobs that drain them, why people stay in relationships that don't feel safe. It isn't really a lack of motivation, but a lack of real options. When housing eats up majority of your income, rest becomes a luxury and choice becomes dangerous. And then people confuse survival with stability.
I live in America, but I can't get a job in a native English speaking country because that's the only language I was raised speaking. If you noticed before I moved to Dallas, I thought it was diverse. It's actually very Hispanic heavy out here. Cool, understood. And most of the jobs out here want you to be bilingual. Again, understood. But I didn't grow up bilingual. I'm Black. Never said I wasn't willing to learn Spanish. I just feel a little discriminated against because I can't get a job in a field that I'm pretty proficient in. I do my job well, but I don't speak. Never said I wasn't willing to learn, and they don't even offer training.
They got to make this one make sense, because the people that advocate for this, that say, yeah, it's okay, you got to be bilingual to get a job, be the same people advocating for these truck drivers, these non-English speaking truck drivers. Yeah, the test should be in every language, not just Spanish, every language. They should be able to take the test in. And they're behind 18-wheelers, right? Driving throughout this country, putting millions of American commuters' lives at risk if they're not proficient driving this vehicle versus an entry level position. These are entry level positions that people, Americans, are being locked out of. Like, why are we even having this conversation when this country is a predominantly English speaking country? You have thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans living in Mexico. You think Mexico is accommodating the English speakers out there, Americans? No, you got to learn the language. So why is this allowed where you have a group of people that can move into the community, basically take over the community by locking people out of the job market? And there's another layer to this because she says Spanish, she's speaking about Hispanics. They don't even hire Afro Latinos. So it's not only them discriminating because of language, it's racism too. There's some racism going on, but this is absolute. There should be a class action lawsuit against places like this. Like, I mean, Texas. She said Texas.
Well, it's official. The United States is bankrupt. It's insolvent. And this is not according to some wild-eyed left-wing liberal think tank. This is from the Department of the Treasury. The United States has assets of about $6 trillion. It has liabilities of almost $46 trillion. The debt is expected to reach $40 trillion by the end of this year. Just paying the interest on that debt will eat up 16% of federal spending. In 10 years, that number is expected to grow to 26%. That's more than Medicare. That's more than Social Security. That's more than the Pentagon. One of President Donald J. Ponzi's campaign promises was to do something about the debt, to begin paying down the debt. That was the whole point of Doge, to eliminate government fraud, waste, and abuse so that he could save enough money to start paying down the debt. I suppose that promise has gone the way of lower prices on day one and no more foreign wars. He hasn't allocated one nickel for paying down the debt, and in fact has increased the debt by at least $5 trillion. While the Republicans and the MAGAs complain about illegal immigrants and drag queens, the most dire threat facing this country is the debt. President Ponzi is not only not doing anything about the debt, he's actually exacerbating it. President Ponzi is not fit for his job, and by his own definition, people who are not fit for their jobs deserve to be fired. President Ponzi, do the country a favor. Show yourself to the door. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Breaking into the Don Lemon Show newsroom, and it is not good news. It's really bad news, as a matter of fact. For the first time since Gallup began tracking, Gallup, the polling company, began tracking it, more U.S. workers are struggling in life. 49% struggling, 46% feel like they are thriving. Those numbers have flipped since Donald Trump took office. Gas prices are through the roof, diesel through the roof. More people are raiding their 401ks than ever at an alarming rate. And we are in a war that has no justification. And Donald Trump's approval rating has fallen to 36%, the lowest since his return to the White House. That's according to a Reuters Ipsos poll. So, are you tired of winning yet? Is America great?
Full of fucking slumlords, y'all. This room belongs to my youngest two daughters. And at this point, it's so cold in here that I could see the smoke coming out of my mouth while I'm talking. And the landlord is still getting rent. Well, I guess it's time to crank up the space heaters and plug in the hot water, because, listen, at the end of the day, as a mom, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's fucking cold. At the end of the day, the purpose of this video is to bring awareness as to what goes on living in New York City. They give us these subsidies that are supposed to help us quote unquote pay the rent, and the landlords take the money a lot of the times, and they don't provide the things that they're supposed to provide, like heat, hot water, a refrigerator, even a stove. And nothing ever really happens. Even after reporting to 311, even after reporting to HPD, nothing happens. So I need the community, because I know I'm not alone, to band together, tag the mayor, tag the news company, tag whoever, because there's no reason why when I wake up in the morning after you get your $3,000 in rent, I don't have heat. This has been going on now for about 2 weeks, and honestly, I'm over it. Even with plugging in space heaters, I can't get it warm enough in here. Even with boiling the water on a stove, I can't get it warm enough in here. And at the end of the day, I should not have to use the stove or the oven and risk carbon monoxide poisoning and all of those type of, I should not have to go through that. And I know I'm not alone. So anybody else in New York City that's out here cold with me, please tag yourself, tag your story, tag everybody, tag anybody, anyone who you think can help at this point, because now I'm reaching out to the community.
Why are we seeing so many black and brown ICE agents in the airports? I posted about this yesterday and people corrected me. I originally thought that there were not as many melanated ICE agents, but there are so many black and brown ICE agents. So many more than I thought. And I'm sitting with that. Secondly, I did not think about the fact that in the airports you cannot wear masks. Out on the street you can. So a lot of people propose that the reason black and brown people are put in the airports is because their identities cannot be protected in the same way that these folks outside the airports identities can be protected. And third, it's also this sense of wanting to appear to have a united racial front when it comes to what ICE is doing. Very interesting stuff. Damn. So disappointed.
I need to know why LA is so fucking hard to rent right now. I make $200,000 to $250,000 a year. I work my ass off. I have a 798 credit score. I just put my name in for an apartment house for $4,000 and I got denied. I wrote a cover letter. I got her phone number. We chatted. I told her my boyfriend's handy. I make more than enough money and my credit score is phenomenal. Why? I need to know. If there is anybody that could tell me why I keep getting rejected by these places where I have more than enough money to rent, I don't get it. It's so frustrating and it like breaks my heart every single time. Every single time. I am literally almost started crying when I got the rejection email today. And I know that's so silly, but like, you know, I get excited. I start designing the house and it's so exciting and it's a new fresh start. I love, love, love moving. The 4 places that we have put our name in have not gotten. I'm so confused. I do not understand it.
Pack it up. Pack it right on up. To live comfortably in New York City, you gotta make $180,000. I mean, not even some of the city workers is making that. I remember back in the day, having a city job was a flex. I see why everybody and their mama still living with their mama. There is like 30% original people in New York. And those 30% is fighting for their life. Look at this. This is blasphemy. I am baffled. Y'all throw some agreeable gray paint, some vinyl flooring and new appliances, and y'all think that's tea? Stainless steel appliances got the rent $2,000 for an apartment that if you walked in the front door, you would fall out the window. Some of these apartment bathrooms is outside in the hallway. If we gonna be anything, let's be fucking for real. Who's living in New York? How y'all feeling? Y'all alright?
What a beautiful and amazing people. My good people, in today's video, it's a very emotional video, not just from Black Americans, but from the entire Americans. It's only that, you know, there are some few Africans, Black Americans that have come here, and they're actually speaking. They are speaking their hearts out, and that is to do with renting and housing crisis in America, because guys, rent has become so high and value for money also is not seen. Remember this lady in New York that is paying so much, but imagine you are inside that particular room, and then you are talking and you can see that, you can see all the indicators of the cold room. And to make the matter worse, it's children that are sleeping there. I mean, that is terrible. So guys, rent is not just high. People are suffocating, honestly speaking. People are working 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs and still they are getting evicted. I mean, rent is becoming not affordable. So I can ask you this question, like what happens when survival becomes unaffordable? Because that is what is happening to Americans at the moment. So my good people, Black Americans are speaking out because of many housing crisis and I can tell you that this is no longer a warning, it's reality. It's real. People are suffering, people are suffocating. So I actually hope you watched all the clips that we played here, and you can see that people are breaking down, people are crying, people are stressed that, how will my kids survive this? I mean, when the government gives us what we call that, there is this thing, affordability. I'm trying to remember the word, guys. Like when they try to make it affordable, and then the landlords take it. They are not making anything affordable. They're not providing the prerequisite items that are supposed to be in that house or home, and the mortgage again is so expensive. And if you have a good credit score, you are not still getting the chance to buy a home, like you get rejected. I mean, it's just bad. So, and people are not talking about survival. It's all about survival at the moment, because remember that these families, that all these that have come out to speak, they are parents. It's not like they are not parents. So we really understand what they're going through. And in this case, I will say that the Black Americans are the ones that have been hit harder. And my good people, this is where it gets this is where it's as deeper and deeper, because it's not just about high rent, it's about who gets it the hardest. And in this case, it's the Black Americans that are getting it the hardest. So in America, Black renters face higher eviction compared to the white renters. So that tells you a lot. And especially Black women and single mothers, they're the ones that are facing higher eviction rate in America. And of course, it's not fair, because they're the vulnerable in the community. You would expect that they should be the most supported. Anybody that is a single parent, it doesn't matter if it's a single father, mother, they really need the chance and the opportunity to be supported by organizations, by the government. And when I talk about support, it's just giving them jobs, nothing else. So Black American renters, the Black renters are the hardest to be hit on this particular part. So my good people, it's really unfortunate that you can possibly hear about someone having to move over 26 times, 30 times, because the family keeps on losing housing. And think about the number of times. I mean, that is not instability, that's a system failing the people of America. So guys, working harder doesn't even make sense at the moment in America, because you expected that you're going to work like 3 or 4 jobs so that you can afford, but it's still not affordable. So for so many years, the advice on Americans was very simple: work harder and more. But today it's the opposite. And remember, the government was just declared insolvent, like it's bankrupt at the moment. So you don't know even what are going to face or they're going to go through now. So some of the people that work full time, when you work full time, it means that you don't have side hustles. And if you don't have the side hustles, then it's really bad. You cannot afford housing at the end of the day, because you have to go to job from 8 in the morning to probably 5 in the evening. Now, compared to when you work 3 or 4 jobs a day, because when you work several jobs, it means that every hour or every 3 hours you are somewhere and you are working. So things are not going on well. Some people have come out to discuss about this, and analysts, some of them, they are talking about the cost of living that has gotten so extreme that what used to be middle class income no longer guarantees stability. So I don't know what you think about that. When people say that I did everything right and I'm still struggling, guys, just know that they're not exaggerating at all. They are actually trying to expose a broken equation. We have these particular instances of people having being affected, not having been affected like emotionally, and that is very very serious, because emotional toll means it's just the same as depression, and you know what it means. So when you talk about crisis, housing crisis, financial crisis, it's not just about financial issues, it's also emotional, because it means that you don't have peace in yourself. You hear people talking about frustration, exhaustions, fear, and you hear about kids or children growing up without stable homes, parents carrying out the guilt, name them. That is emotional toll. Some people even don't unpack anymore because they don't know how long they are going to stay. They don't have hope, they have lost hope in themselves. But guys, we just need to really push ourselves, make ourselves believe that tomorrow is going to be better, because at the end of the day we live by hope. So this whole situation, this whole story that you're talking about, it's not just about housing issues. That is trauma. And of course you will ask yourself, what is the bigger question here? And I can tell you, if rent keeps rising and rising and rising, and on the other hand, wages don't change at all, it would be fair if the cost of living rises, the wages also rises. But in many instances, the cost of living goes up, but the wages remain the same. So what will happen next is that people will not just like stop. The people will not stop. They'll keep moving on. At the end of the day, they'll keep struggling. They keep surviving, and they'll reach at a breaking point, and that is where you also see depression and all manner of sorts of emotional, anyway. Tell me what you think about these particular stories. Comment down below. Kindly subscribe to this channel, I'll really appreciate. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.